Well, good afternoon, everyone. Michael Soothing here. I wanted to talk today a little bit about stereotypes, specifically stereotypes about Filipinas, and one Filipina in particular, this one, my LDR GF, Joanne, who has, of course, her own channel, as you know, Scorpio NYT, where she does ASMR mukbang amongst other topics as well. And the reason I want to do this video is because it's so easy. I've watched many videos about the Philippines and about Filipinos and Philippine culture, Filipino culture, and Filipinas and their characteristics. And I see a tendency on the part of some of those folks who make those videos and the people who put in comments to kind of generalize in a way that paints all Filipinos with a broad brush. And so I wanted to talk about how my Filipina, I use the possessive article there because she would also call me her, American or white guy. There's us when we were visiting each other, okay? My Filipina breaks the mold of many of those stereotypes. And so I wanted to talk about that so we can learn not to generalize and maybe instead focus on individual characteristics. Not that it's not important to look at cultural tendencies. There are some that I think most Filipinos share that are cultural tendencies. For example, very strongly family-oriented and unconcerned about so much about money and willing to adapt and have a good time and a good attitude even when circumstances are not so great, or they might live at a semi-poverty level in some cases. These are all positive attributes, I think, about the Filipino culture. But I wanted to focus today on some of the recurring themes and questions I see come up and kind of answer it from one guy's perspective on one Filipina, just to break those stereotypical molds. So, with that, let's begin. Our first question is, do Filipinas want to scam foreign white guys, especially older white guys, into giving them money while they pretend to be interested in them, especially in a long-distance relationship? In our case, the answer to that is no. No. I'm thoroughly convinced that Joanne became interested in me because of my personality and because she likes my voice, my ASMR voice, but also because we had a lot in common as we started to chat with each other, first online and then, over the last year, we've been meeting each other several times now. I came to Denmark twice. She came to the USA once, and she's coming soon again to visit me for the summer. She didn't try to scam me or ask things of me or demand things of me. So I think she breaks that mold. If people think, younger, of course, Joanne is 45, but she looks much younger. I don't look younger than my age, but I'm absolutely convinced after so much interaction she and I have had, and I was convinced early on actually, that our relationship is genuine. She's not scamming. How about the next question? Are Filipinas quiet and shy and submissive as partners, letting their guy make the important decisions? Well, I would say no to that question. I think, of course, Joanne and I are both aggressive type A personality types. You might not see that in me in my relaxing videos. You might not see that in her videos. However, we both do like to be the decision maker. But there's no cause of conflict in it in general, because we communicate very well and we don't let our pride and our ego get in the way. So, of course, we haven't had to live real life circumstance as partners, at least, not yet have we done that, but we still talk about important things and manage to communicate. But I don't see her or other Filipinas as being overly submissive. I think they'll come off sometimes as shy and hold back. But if they get into a serious relationship, then you'll find they're going to become quite assertive and want to have their role, a strong role in it. So again, I think Joanne, my Filipina, breaks that mold. What's the next one? I'm only doing a handful of these. Maybe in the future, we'll make videos about each other and stereotypes and take it one topic at a time and delve far more into detail. But I'm just skimming the surface today because I thought it would be an interesting topic, since I've spent so much time watching videos about Filipinas in the near or recent past. Do Filipinas have the need to eat rice daily and other Filipino foods in order to feel satisfied with their dietary habits? I've watched a few videos where the expat in the video who has a Filipina girlfriend or wife says, "Oh my goodness, get used to eating rice at every meal, or at least once a day, because they have to have it, and that rice cooker better be going all the time and ready, Johnny on the spot with the rice," okay? Once again, my Filipina breaks that mold. Perhaps partly because she spent so many years in other countries during much of her adult life, namely Denmark and Sweden, but also because there are different regions, of course, of the Philippines. You've got kind of the Mindanao down in the south, and the Visayas region in the middle, and what is it up north? Now I've forgotten. That upsets me. But anyway, it's not necessarily that all regions are really heavy on the rice and vegetables. In Joanne's case, she eats very seldom does she eat rice. She's just as happy with a burger or a hot dog or a slice of pizza or, chicken or fish Now she eats a very healthy diet overall, a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, but she's really omnivorous. She'll eat and enjoy almost anything because she's got culinary background and training, and she's absolutely not rigid about, eating only a specific kind of diet. She enjoys anything as long as it doesn't give her an allergic reaction or interfere with some of her own biology. Like, she had a gallbladder operation, so she can't eat a lot of fat, so she has to be careful about that, and dairy, for example. But otherwise, I don't think we'll eat any more rice than when her and I visit each other, and I don't see her doing that. So, another mold-breaking attribute. This is kind of an important one, I think, because I've seen 3 or 4 videos on this topic by those who live in the Philippines, and that is, do Filipinas resort to tampo, which is the silent treatment, for hours or even days at a time, and not tell their partner why they are angry and why they refuse to communicate about it, and tell him why they are angry? Once again, that may be a general truism for a lot of Filipinas, but it's not in our case. Joanne does not do tampo with me. Okay, so in fact, one of the very refreshing things about her is that she does just the opposite. And I love this about her. When she is unhappy about something, or she has a question in her mind about something, or feels maybe something was offensive that I did to her, with her, or said, instead of tampo, what she does is she ultra hyper communicates with me. And I love that because I know where she stands. I know what's on her mind. We can talk it out and deal with it. And sometimes what she's thinking may be incorrect, but I'm able to correct it by giving give and take feedback if she misinterpreted something I said or did. And sometimes what her observation is an accurate one, and it helps me to adjust and realize how to be more sensitive to a hot button issue for her. I'll give you one example where she has her own way of reacting if I've gone over the line on something. When she was in the U.S., she didn't want to eat her meals out at restaurants a lot. She wanted to buy food if we had a residence inn or a Airbnb place to stay with a kitchen, which we did for several days. She wants to eat in and cook for me. And of course I appreciated that, but I didn't want to spend a lot of time with that when we had such a short, vacation. So we went to the store one day, and Joanne tends to think large when it comes to meals and food. So she was getting all kinds of produce and a giant watermelon and, on and on in that vein. And I kept nagging her because I'm a minimalist when it comes to food. I think in terms of a portion for 2 and that's it. 1 meal, that's it. But she thinks more in terms of, let's make a lot of it, take some with us when we go on, for a hike, so we have something for lunch, and something for leftovers and plenty of fruit available. So she keeps putting things in the cart, and I keep bugging her and nagging her and saying, "You're buying too much." This went on for, 20 minutes or so. And I'm kind of an anal retentive control freak, so in my own way sometimes, and I don't realize it, right? So she's putting up with this and not saying anything about it, but saying, "No, let's get this, let's get that." We get to the checkout line, and we get outside, and suddenly I see a tear coming out of the corner of her eye, and I say, "Whoa, what's wrong? What did I do?" And she immediately told me. She said, "I'm trying to do nice things for you and cook for you and plan out meals for us, and it sounds like you're being very negative about it and unhappy about it." And I had hurt her feelings. But instead of clamming up, she came right out with it. Well, that was very helpful for me, because I realized immediately, oh, she's right on this thing. I was doing that, nagging the heck out of her about it, when I should have just let her have fun and buy whatever she wanted and make some meals, right? So I learned an important lesson about the dynamics of our relationship and how we think differently. Other times, she has been incorrect in her assumptions about something, but she doesn't take a hard stand and say, "No, I'm right in what I'm thinking." Instead, she'll just ask me very honestly, "What did you mean by this? Was it this or this, right?" And, or something else. Am I misunderstanding? It's very straightforward. Great communication is the key to a good relationship, I think. One of the keys, of course. So again, she blows up the stereotype about Tampo. Are Filipinas naive and provincially minded, with little or no interest in world events, politics, other cultures, art, and so forth? I've seen this particular generalization made. Oh, they're just interested in socializing and in their family and in, their guy and in their friends, and that's it. Their eyes are going to glaze over if you try to talk to them about science or politics or religion or metaphysics or whatever. I have found this to be absolutely not true with Joanne, my Filipina. Now, this is partly because, again, she lived in some European countries, and also partly because she's very well educated. Joanne got a bachelor's degree and was on the way to a master's degree, and she studied at university in the Philippines, UP Diliman, and also in University of Sweden in Gothenburg, I think it was. Anyway, and she's taken other courses on the side, culinary school and all kinds of things. Her interests cover the entire spectrum of human experience. She can be interested in nature. She can be interested in science. She can be interested in politics, and we've had many such discussions. Interested in other cultures, all kinds of things. So I find that she's quite curious about the world and enjoys good intellectual stimulating interaction on all kinds of levels: human behavior, sociology, human sexuality, you name it, she can talk about it, and not ignorantly talk about it like some people do who have an opinion about everything, including things they know nothing about. She will hold forth with an opinion that's thought out, well thought out in general, I think. So, once again, she breaks the mold when it comes to the stereotypical thought processes some of us have indulged in. Not me, because I didn't know anything about the Philippines before about a year ago, or very little, so I've only got interested in studying it in the last few months and watching these videos on Filipinas. So the next one is similar to this one we just discussed, which is, are Filipinas uneducated farm girls with language barriers to good English, with little interest in issues outside the scope of their family? The answer to that is not in our case, and I already explained the reasons why. And also, Joanne has great mastery of the English language. She's very articulate, and she's articulate in 4 languages actually: Swedish, Danish, English, and Filipino or Tagalog. So I find, and I really enjoy that about her. When I went to visit her in Denmark, she was my guide because, and also in Sweden, we went over the border to Sweden, and she could talk fluently in either case. So, of course, she's quite intelligent, but it's not true that all Filipinas are this way. Maybe there's a majority, I don't know. I'm just talking about one here. What else do we have? Next up, I made a few things here. The next one is, do Filipinas take an over-the-top interest in sending money to family members, especially if they reside and work in a foreign country? I think in this case, I don't want to delve too far into the personal. I would say that that generalization probably holds true, but not so much in our case as in some of the more extreme cases I've seen. Joanne has family members, and they're all pretty independent, well-educated, and self-sufficient. So I don't have to worry about, supporting an extended family if we, should end up together long-term. That is not her expectation, of course, and so and I wouldn't allow it to be. I don't make a lot of money, and I've got people who need some help from me in my family here, so in the States. So I wouldn't be up for that kind of thing. But she's not asked me for money for family members. I've read horror stories about, Filipinas asking their expat boyfriends or husbands or whatever for, my cousin has to go to the hospital, my sister has to get her dog vet bill taken care. It's a never-ending litany of things for family members. I don't see that, so I don't think it will be a problem. Although there is an unusual thing that I see with money management in Filipina families. And I think this might hold true even in our case, and that is part of showing love to your family member. In the Philippines, it's a little different than in America, where we just cut our family members loose usually and say, you know, gee, that's too bad you're having tough times, you know. I mean, we'll help them if they really desperately need it. But we don't tend to give money to each other as a general rule unless it's an extreme case of need. In the Philippines, it's quite common for family members to partially show respect and affection for other family members by sending money to each other. And sometimes it's hard for the American mind to wrap itself around this, because it might be like, I'm going to send money to my sister because she needs to send money to her cousin, right? And then the cousin's going to send money to me so I can share that with my mom, so my mom can help her niece, okay? I mean, it's this whole convoluted chain of things that make no sense, because it's like a shell game of money going from A to B to C to D. And you stop and you say to if you're American, you stop and you say, wait a second, doesn't A have a job and a much lower cost of living than we do? Or doesn't, same with B and C and D. So what is the deal with this money going around? But to the Filipino mind, it's a matter of affection and respect. So we have to be culturally sensitized to that, but keep it under control at the same time so that it doesn't impact your own relationship in a negative way. But I don't think it will be a problem in our case. And the next one is kind of a corollary to that one, which is, are Filipinas looking for an older foreign white guy to pay the bills and, of course, send money to family members and provide security, or do they really love him? Okay, I'm not the world's biggest genius by any means, but I can certainly tell when emotion is genuine or not genuine. And I'm here to tell you that Joanne and I got involved on the basis of our personalities and genuine emotion, not because she's looking specifically for like some foreign older guy who can help out with finances. Quite the opposite. There were plenty of guys that would fill that role for her if she so desired. I think if you watch her videos, you'll hear her say many times, I spent 14 years, the last 14 years of my life, being celibate in order to take care of my daughter. She pushed away the whole thing about relationships and things until she had done and she did it on her own. You know, she went out and worked hard and did whatever she needed to do to be independent and raise her daughter as a single parent, not looking to anyone else to help. Certainly not trying to find a foreign rich guy. And so I would say that's a cliche that may apply to some Filipinas, but does not apply to all. I know that our relationship is genuine, and it's built on genuine mutual respect and affection and compatibility, attributes in each other's personality, and has nothing to do with age or race or country of origin or status or materialism or any of that. And I'm 100% certain in this case that that is true. So, another stereotype that my Filipina blows up on an individual basis. What's next? Are Filipinas very materialistic as to styles and name brand designer fashions, at least if they have the budget to go out and shop and buy clothes? Do they have to have the name brand, the latest fad? Now I know that some of the biggest and best mega malls for designer stuff in the world are in the Philippines. So of course there may be some truth to this generalization or stereotype. However, I'm here to tell you that not all Filipinas follow that dictum, because Joanne does not do so. She appreciates quality, but she doesn't want to pay 10 times as much for two items that are identical just because this one has a little label on it hanging by a little thread, you know, that says Louis Vuitton, right? So, and in my mind, being a little bit scientific minded, I have to highly respect that, because what Joanne has been known to shop at secondhand stores and buy clothes and great stuff for herself, and she appreciates quality, but you know, she's not going to go out and blow $400 on a handbag because it's got the right kind of tag hanging off the handle. And I very much respect that in her. So it's certainly not true that all Filipinas think this way, trying to get one up on their friends or whatever. Status conscious, style conscious, label conscious. I love this in her. Last but not least, are Filipinas overly jealous and possessive? What a silly question. You think all Filipinas are going to be that way? Do you think my Filipina is like that? The answer, of course, is yes, absolutely. Okay? See, I surprised you. I surprised you that time. The fact is, this pretty smiling face could turn into an angry grimace, a female version of Dexter thoughts going through her mind, if she thought her guy was a little too interested in some other woman. So this is a characteristic I have found to be true of Filipina women, and my Filipina in particular. I've seen videos by others discussing this and read a lot of comments. What are the reasons for it? Why would it be different? I mean, all women and men, not all, but most women and most men in relationships are going to experience jealousy if they think their partner is cheating on them, or if they think their partner is looking to cheat on them, or if they think their partner is making comparisons to others, you know, has a wandering eye, whatever. So that's not unusual for any particular country, I would say, or culture. There's a lot of guys that are outrageously jealous and possessive in the United States, for example. sometimes it's completely irrational. That's based on insecurity and things like that. That has nothing to do with the relationship. But in the case of the Filipina, at least my experience is, you have to be a little careful when you talk to the waitress at the restaurant and pay the bill, or take the cup of coffee from the drive-through coffee place. You know, because, or comment to your subbies in a complimentary fashion, because there's a little bit of additional edge to the assumption, shall we say, that there's cause for jealousy, when really there isn't. So this will be something that will be fun for us to work on in our relationship. And I didn't want to leave you the impression that there are no stereotypical things that might be true of my Filipina. But this is what she would tell you, and I think there's truth to this. She would say, listen, if I didn't love you and care about you, then I wouldn't have the tendency to get overly jealous. And for us Filipinas, the more we love and care about someone, the more we're going to have a tendency to be jealous and possessive. I actually don't put her in the possessive category. She doesn't try to control me or anything like that. She wouldn't, I don't think she would limit, for example, where are you going? What time are you coming back? You know, who did you see at the store? You know, I don't think she's like that. But I do see flashes of jealousy that are unwarranted, because when I have no particular interest in striking up a relationship with someone else, she could still jump to that conclusion that I'm thinking somebody else is prettier or more interesting or whatever, in the way I talk. I'm a naturally flirtatious person because I love women. Now I'm gonna be in trouble. Shh, don't tell her I said that. No, but I've explained to her many times, because I'm in a relationship with her, she never has to worry about me straying. So, you know, while her and I relationship is a committed one at this point, she has no cause for concern. I just enjoy interaction, you know, with others, and I'm not highly social, so most of the time, so, you know, it's nothing that, but I have to be sensitive to how she feels and make sure that I'm not. I read a story, no, a comment in somebody else's video where this expat who has a Filipina, I think it's either a wife or a fiance, and he was in the Philippines. They went to a restaurant, and as they were leaving, and when they got home, he noticed they went to a restaurant with the family, okay, not just him and his mate. It was the mom, 2 sisters, and his, I think it was his fiance. So when they get home, he noticed none of them would talk to him at all, and they were all giving him dirty looks for hours and not speaking to him. And it took him quite a while to figure out that he had been just a little bit too friendly with the waitress. And he said, I should have got a clue when I all saw them staring daggers at that waitress and couldn't figure out why. 'Cause in his mind, there was nothing going on, just chit-chat, and who knows what the conversation was or whatever, but, it might have only been for 30 seconds, but in the eyes of the Filipinas, he was being too over-friendly to some other female. So I think guys who have a girlfriend or wife or fiance with a Filipina might want to take note of this and be sensitive to it, to try not to push that button, especially if they're the naturally flirtatious type, even when they don't mean anything by it. So, I'm going to try on my part to make sure that I don't send the wrong signals out. Yeah. But overall, I think we've discussed all of these things, and you can see that the theme is, I have struck up, even though it was a long distance relationship initially, and then we started meeting each other. We're going to spend the summer together too. That'll be a longer period of time, but yeah, we've spent several weeks together already, so we understand each other, and we talk on the phone, FaceTime, pretty much every day, and for a long period of time. By the way, is there a cliche or a stereotype about Filipinas being pretty chatty? If so, I think that one might be true. Shh, don't say I said. No, but I enjoy, of course, I love to talk to my partner, so, but I like it much better live than I do on the phone, or even on FaceTime's better than just the phone, because at least for me, you can see expressions, and it's much easier to understand nuances and context and things. But Joanne and I are both very aspy, so she's very honest and open, and I love that. I don't like game playing, and neither does she. Role playing, maybe, if you're doing it for fun, but not game playing, where you can't get the other person to tell you what they really think, It's such a drag for a guy when he says to his partner, "What's wrong?" She's furiously angry, right? And he says, "What's wrong?" And she says, "Nothing. Nothing's wrong." Isn't that a bummer? And then she won't talk. And, it's so refreshing. I'm glad Joanne doesn't do the tombo, because I would go insane. So, and don't tell her I said that. I don't want her to think she can use that in the future. She wouldn't do that anyway. She's not a manipulator. So if there's a stereotype about manipulation, she doesn't fit the bill. So you see, it's not just one Filipina or one relationship I'm trying to talk about. I think you can extend this concept throughout all races and cultures and countries. Don't assume that everybody is the same just because there is a particular race or religion or culture. It's okay to generalize if the majority of people are like that. I think generalization is honest and valid to say most of subset A is this way. But don't take it down to the individual level and assume that every individual has to have these broad stereotypical characteristics, because they don't. It's not necessarily true. Alright, so anyway, I hope this was relaxing and informative, and I hope that, you know, you can, I will link, and I will try to remember to write Joanne's YouTube channel at the bottom of the screen also, down here, right? Oh, I know my trick. The stop and start trick reminds me, because I don't do a good job of editing. I get bored if I watch my whole video, so I tend to not try to edit. But if I put in a break like that, I'll remember that there's something I gotta do there. Anyway, I told you that before. Don't ASMR and drive, and we'll be back. I'll do a longer series on Filipinas and the Philippines when I have a chance, and my Filipina, when I have a chance to visit the Philippines with her, to see for myself what it's like there. Because when I visited her before, she was in Denmark. So it will be great to have the authentic experience. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.